All right, it's the end of the week. This is the Morning Pitt here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. Glad to be with you this morning, as we always are, to get your day started with the Morning Pitt here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We put these videos out every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Every morning, just to get you ready for the day. You get your morning shave, you get your morning shower, and you get your morning pit. Not in that order. I don't shave before I shower. You get your morning shower, you get your morning shave, and you get your morning pit. And you can actually listen to it while you shave, so if you want to multitask. Either way, if you want to make sure you keep up with the Morning Pit, you do it right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. That subscribe button, I put it right down there for you. It's easy. You just click it. One click and you are subscribed. And if you want to put on 2 clicks, you can turn on your notifications so you get an alert sent to your phone anytime we post a new Morning Pit video, anytime we go live like we do for our weekly Wednesday night show at 8:30 p.m. every week on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. You'll never miss any of it if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then go check out the website, Panther-Lair.com. It's Friday, and what we've been doing the past few weeks, and we'll probably continue doing at least throughout the summer, maybe into the fall, because I really enjoy it, is the mailbag episode, where we take questions on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com, our premium message board between 5th and Forbes, and let Panther-Lair.com subscribers ask the questions, and then we answer as many as we can at the end of the week. And I usually, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll put up a post soliciting questions, and collect them, and then record the Morning Pit mailbag for Fridays. And I try to get through as many questions as I can, but I try to keep these videos around 20, 25 minutes, under a half hour, certainly. And really, I don't like to go too far above 25 minutes. I think there are analytics and studies that sort of indicate that you're going to lose listeners at a certain point. You're going to lose viewers at a certain point. You guys all have not a short attention span, but you don't have an unlimited attention span, is probably the way I should say it. So what happens is I don't always get through all of the questions. And so we got a bunch backed up actually from the last 2 weeks that we haven't gotten the chance to get through. Plus I have questions from this week. So we're going to start with questions from the last 2 weeks, try and get through as many as we can and get through the questions this week and get as much as possible. So we start with Pitt Panther 17, Pitt_Panther 17, I should say. He asked this question, or she asked this question. They asked this question a couple weeks ago. Which wide receiver leads the team in catches this season, and which Pitt players lead the team, or which player leads the team in touchdown catches this season? And I think I'm not going to go too far off the map here. I'm not going to give you an answer that will surprise you or say, wow, I never saw that. Probably if you guessed my answer, you're probably right, because my answer would be Conante Mumfield will lead the team in catches, and Bob Means will lead the team in touchdowns. That's sort of my expectation. I'm more confident about the first one than I am about the second one, but I think if all things go according to plan, or at least something close to according to plan, it should be Mumfield and Means. They should be the two guys leading the charge here. Mumfield should be the leader in receptions. He should catch, what did he have last year? 58 catches or something like that. He should catch upward of 60, 70 balls this season. And I think Means should be the leader in touchdown receptions. I'll say, I'm just going to keep repeating it over and over and over again about Bub Means, that all the physical skills are there. All the physical tools are there. He just needs to put it together and be a complete receiver. He needs to be a refined receiver and catch the ball, because he's got the physical skills, and he showed it on a couple key plays in the spring game. He's got the physical skills to make plays and to get open and to make athletic plays, because he's big, he's fast, he can jump. He's just got to catch the ball. If he does that, I think he can be a threat in the red zone. I think he can score touchdowns. I think he can score long touchdowns. I think he can win one-on-one battles in the end zone. I think he can do it. So those are my 2 picks. I don't see any need to get crazy or go off the board here, because those are the obvious options, and I think those are the guys who are going to end up doing it. I think Conante Mumfield can catch more passes than he did last season, and probably have a more productive overall season, even on a yards per catch, average. I think he can score more touchdowns. I think he can he can have a better season overall. I think this whole passing game can have a better season overall, and I think those will be the 2 guys who lead the charge. KJK7372 says, do you think Pitt's #1 quarterback recruit option is Drew Devalier from Texas? And I apologize to Drew if I'm mispronouncing his name. Drew is an interesting guy. He's committed to TCU as a baseball recruit. He's a big, like 6'5" right-handed pitcher. I think he can throw in the 90s or something like that, but he's also getting a lot of attention as a football recruit. Pitt is his only Power 5 offer. Frank Signetti came down and actually went down to Plano East High School and watched him throw earlier this week. And I think they like him a lot. I think they like Henry Hasselbeck, who's Matt Hasselbeck's son in Massachusetts. They like him a lot. They offered a new quarterback prospect, Miles O'Neill, earlier this week, a kid from Massachusetts who's going to go to high school, or he's going to transfer to the Hun School, I should say, in New Jersey for his senior year, where his offensive coordinator will be Kenny Pickett's quarterback coach, which doesn't hurt. Those are a few of the guys. There are a couple others, Trevor Jackson, Tyler Cherry, who I think are on that list of probably their top 5 or 6 options. Who's their number 1 on that list? Honestly, I think it shifts. I think it moves. And that's what happens this time of year. Frank Signetti's out on the road. He's looking at these quarterbacks in person. He's watching them work out. And he's getting a sense of who he likes the most. He's watched all the film. He's watched all the workout tape. And now he's got a chance to go out and watch these guys throw in person and really decide who he wants to prioritize. And I think we'll get a clearer picture of that when some of these guys start coming in for official visits in June. Drew Devilier, like you mentioned, he's going to be on campus in about a week and a half or so. He's attending the Elite 11 camp in State College, which you say, why is a kid from Texas going to State College for an Elite 11 camp? Well, the Elite 11 camp near him conflicted with his baseball schedule. Remember, I said he's a baseball commit with TCU. So when he went looking for another Elite 11 regional camp to attend, he saw that there was one near Pittsburgh and said, well, I'm going to go to that so I can also visit Pitt while I'm there. He also plans to come back for the Pitt coaches prospect camp in early June. So he'll be here a couple times. Henry Hasselbeck, like I mentioned, Matt Hasselbeck's son, a guy who's got some good offers. He's a lacrosse player as well. Another guy who's making a decision between 2 sports of football or lacrosse. He's going to be up later this month and then come back a couple weeks after that for an official visit. So these guys are going to start. I think you're going to see them floating through campus. A couple of them came to spring camp already, attended some practices, and you're going to see that pecking order sort of, I think, kind of come together over the next month and a half or so. And we'll have a real clear idea, and Pitt will probably have a quarterback commitment by the end of June. DSP 7260. I like this question. It says, does Pitt's new pod in the ACC help or hurt the perception nationally? On one hand, especially with Virginia Tech being down, they should be 3 relatively reliable wins for the foreseeable future. On the other hand, beating bad teams doesn't seem to do much for Pitt's perception, and I can already hear they only made the ACC championship game because they don't play anyone in their pod takes, even if they have a great season. So that's a great question. Pitt's pod in the new re-envisioned ACC with no divisions, just kind of a straight up and down the list, 1 through 14, and 1 and 2 play each other in the conference championship game. Everybody has 3 annual opponents, and then they kind of rotate through the rest of the conference in 2-year bids, basically. I mean, you play your 3 annual opponents in your pod, if you want to call it that, although it's not really a pod. Each team has its own 3 opponents. If it was a pod, you would just have like 4 teams in a pod or 3 teams in a pod. But the difficult thing is there's 14 teams in the conference, so you can't really break them down into pods. But for Pitt, they're going to play Boston College, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech annually. Then the other 10 teams in the conference, they'll play 5 this year and the other 5 next year, and they'll just keep rotating around. This grouping, facing Boston College, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech, is about as favorable, I think, as you're going to find when you look through what each team got. I don't know if you see another team that has quite as favorable a draw as this. I'm looking at, Louisville gets Georgia Tech, Miami, and Virginia. Georgia Tech and Virginia are not in a good place right now, but Miami's always Miami. Even if they never end up really being Miami, they're still Miami, and there's always a chance that they're just going to blow up and finally put it together. Miami has Boston College, Florida State, Louisville. That's not really all that appealing. Boston College is, and Louisville could be as well, but Florida State seems to be on the rise. They're putting it together. North Carolina has Duke, NC State, and Virginia. Virginia's not in a good place right now. Duke seems to be on the rise, and NC State is just, I think, a reliable year-to-year team. nobody else, Boston College gets Miami, Pitt, and Syracuse, but I don't think that's all that favorable. I would look at Pitt's trio of Boston College, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech and say that's about as good as you could hope for in terms of stacking wins. And make no mistake about it. When we talk about, you asked the question about perception, national perception. All that matters for national perception, honestly, all that matters is that win total. It doesn't matter, and you're right. People will say that, well, who cares? You only did it against the ACC. Well, I mean, that's Penn State and West Virginia fans talking down to you. All right, ignore them because they're going to find anything they can. You could play Clemson 12 times in a row and win all 12 games and go 12-0 and then beat Clemson again in the ACC championship game and then somehow through some fluke end up facing them twice in the college football playoffs and go 15-0 against Clemson and be ranked number 1 with Clemson number 2, and they will say, yeah, but you never beat the team that was ranked number 1. Like they will always find a way to tear down Pitt's accomplishments, and that's fine. That's what rivals and fans should do. But at the end of the day, all that matters is that win total. All that matters is the accomplishments. It doesn't matter who you beat. And more, and you see this, I think the Big Ten just announced this week, or was reported about the Big Ten this week, that they're going to drop the requirement of playing a Power 5 non-conference opponent. Because it doesn't matter. It's entertainment value, and guess what? They care very little about entertainment value. Like on the priorities for teams, universities, conferences, TV, like all the people who make decisions, all the people in power, your entertainment and enjoyment of the sport ranks down here. Okay? And I can't even reach as low as what that ranks. It's not about, like we always joke about, oh, it's not about academics anymore. Which one do you think matters less to the people making decisions? Academics or fan enjoyment and entertainment? Probably academics ranks a little bit lower because the fan enjoyment and entertainment, there's still a way to make money off of that, but not enough to actually make it move the needle. All that matters is wins. Stack wins. Stop scheduling good opponents. Stop scheduling Power 5 non-conference teams. Yes, it's more fun to watch, but guess what? At the end of the year, you want to see who has the most wins. You want to see who has the highest rankings. And this isn't basketball, where you're playing 30 games and the rankings ultimately don't matter. You might get seeded and moved up or moved down a seed line based on your non-conference strength of schedule, but I think it's very rare that you end up making a significant move in college football based on the strength of schedule. I mean, you would have to have almost exactly the same, success, as far as wins and placing the conference and winning your conference and all that they would have to get to like the 4th or 5th tiebreaker of deciding who makes the college football playoffs. And when I say tiebreaker, sort of, I mean, in the committee's mind, they would have to get way down the list of tiebreakers before they get, well, who did they play? And ultimately, no matter what your 3-game, your 3 annual opponents are in the ACC, if you're in a situation where it's you or an SEC team, they're always going to give the advantage to the SEC because inevitably the strength of schedule must be stronger in the SEC. So to me, if I'm Pitt and for a Pitt fan, you want them to play the weakest competition possible. Seriously, the weakest competition possible and stack wins. Now, you run the risk of losing to that weak competition, and then everybody makes fun of you for losing to Western Michigan at home or losing to Georgia Tech 4 days after they fire their coach or whatever it is. You run that risk, but I'll take that risk rather than challenging yourself against good opponents. Play the soft games. Get the softest schedule you can, stack up all the wins you can, and ultimately you're going to have to make it through a conference schedule and win some games against ACC opponents. And whether it's Boston College, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech, I mean, that's a good start. You still have 5 more that you're going to have to play, which means you're inevitably going to be facing Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, whoever rises and falls in the conference. You're going to be facing those teams every year, every 2 years, I guess. Anyway, so to me, that's the best possible draw in the ACC. And I think it's great for Pitt. And the perception of Pitt, go stack back-to-back 10-win seasons, 3 or 4 10-win seasons in a row, 3 or 4 top 15, top 10 finishes in a row, make a couple ACC championship games, win 1 or 2 more, over the course of a 4-year period, and you'll get your national prestige, and your perception will rise because of your accomplishments. And they won't, if they look back and say, wow, over the last 2 years, Pitt's won 22 games or something like that, or 21 games, the sentence stops there. If they say, wow, over the last 2 years, Pitt has won 21 games. They've won both of their bowl games. They've been in the ACC championship game twice, and they won it once or whatever. They're not going to go on to say, yeah, but they also played Boston College, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech 2 times each, and 6 of their 21 wins came against those. No, nobody's going to dig that deep. It becomes about the big picture. All right, and in the weeds, third week of October, yes, we're going to haggle over, well, they only played this team or they only played that team. Nobody's going to care at the end of the year when you're talking about, oh, look, they just won 10 games again. Oh, look, they just won 11 games. Oh, look, they're back in the ACC championship game. Soft schedule, stack wins. First you get the wins, then you get the power, right? Or the money at least. And that's what it's all about. All right. I like that question, though, because I do think it's important. And look, I want to see them play, Penn State. I want to see them play West Virginia. It's great for my entertainment. It's great for my enjoyment. It's great for your entertainment. They don't care. Pitt might care because they can sell more tickets to Penn State or West Virginia. But ultimately, the people at the very top of this sport, or even just perception-wise, like you say, just stack wins. That's all that matters. It's just about stacking wins. Bernie 1105 says lots of new breweries in the area lately. What are some of your favorites, and any more rumors on Randy Bates' potential retirement? So one Pitt question, one non-Pitt question. Breweries, I'm not the right guy to ask about this. I've said it a few times before. I'm actually gluten-free per doctor's orders, and so all of the breweries that have opened in Pittsburgh over the last 4 years or so have been off limits to me, to my great disappointment. I still say if I went to the doctor tomorrow and they said, hey man, guess what? We screwed up. You're good to go. You can have gluten again. I would get in my car and I would drive to Dancing Gnome. This is the first place I would go. Now, that being said, we're very fortunate in Pittsburgh. If you are gluten-free, celiac, or whatever it is, we have a gluten-free brewery here in Emsworth, out on 65, Aurochs Brewery. They make really good beer. And a couple different varieties. Their hazy is really good. Their blonde is really good. The Heffa is really good. They're really good. We're really fortunate to have that here, so we don't have to drink White Claws all the time, just some of the time. But yeah, so I'm not good on the brewery question, aside from Aurochs. And Randy Bates, he's back again, and I think he'll probably be around for a couple more years. He's an older guy. He's obviously had health problems, but he seems to be in good shape now. But I think coaches who are older like that, Randy Bates, Dave Borbely, even Tim Salem, who seems very sprightly, but is actually he's on the older side. You're inevitably going to have rumors about guys like that, or speculation about retirement, because they're reaching that age when working folk do retire. But not this year. So Randy Bates is here, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's here again in 24. All right, those are the questions that we had left over. Let's get into some of the questions from this week. CHN guy says, with the news of Fuel and Fuddle closing, what's your current favorite place to eat in Oakland? And what's a place that's closed since you were a student that you really miss? Look, Oakland is completely different than it was when I was in college 25 years ago, 26 years ago. I guess I started at Pitt. There are so many things. Yeah, I said this on Twitter on Wednesday. I think that's when the news about Fuel and Fuddle kind of really became official, when Fuel and Fuddle announced that they were going to be closing. I said, if you made a pie chart of all the money I spent in Oakland over the years, or the establishments where I spent money in Oakland over the years, the biggest sections would go to Fuel and Fuddle, Mad Mex, Uncle Sam's, and Uncle Jimmy's. And not necessarily in that order, but those would be the biggest ones. And I loved those places, and 3 of the 4 are gone, and Fuel and Fuddle's on the way out. Used to love going to the attic for quarter drafts. I worked at Schlotsky's for a while. If you remember Schlotsky's down in the corner of was it the corner of Myron and Forbes? I loved Uncle Sam's. I was such a big fan of Uncle Sam's. I really loved that. I loved Fuel and Fuddle, and Mad Mex is still one of my favorite spots. I mean, I go to Mad Mex out in the burbs. It's a big favorite for me. And as far as places currently in Oakland, I couldn't tell you. I mean, honestly, I couldn't tell you. I'm making plans to try and get to Fuel and Fuddle this weekend, to go one more time. But otherwise, the last place I ate in Oakland, I think we ate at the Porch one time after a Pitt basketball game last year. And I think we went to Five Guys at some point in the last 6 months or 8 months, somewhere around there. But I mean, I couldn't tell you that there's a place I really love to eat in Oakland. It's just not. It's not there. I don't know it that well. I'm not there often enough. And it's not my Oakland anymore. Smenges says some schools scoop up former head coaches, NFL guys, etc., and hire them as consultants who don't count as members of the official coaching staff. Does Pitt have any noteworthy consultants helping the staff this year? They don't. I think that's something you see a lot at. Alabama is the best example. Nick Saban is famous now for his reclamation projects, whether it's as an offensive coordinator or. Lane Kiffin was there, Steve Sarkisian was there, it was Bill O'Brien, I think, was there. They bring in guys as consultants. I mean, they give them a chance to get back. He gives these guys a chance to get back on their feet and get back into the job. They've been fired from a job, they're out of work, and they need a job, but they're good football minds, and so he brings them in, and it's rehabilitation, and they end up going back out into the world and getting jobs once again. Pitt doesn't really have a setup like that. They've got a few guys. They have a couple consultants or analysts, I guess they call them. They have an offensive analyst and a defensive analyst. And then they have the GAs. Defensive analyst Phil DeCapito has been there for, I feel like, forever. I feel like he's been at Pitt as long as I've been around the program. And the offensive guy, I forget his name. He did sort of similar work at Illinois for a little while. So they don't really have anybody all that notable in that respect, but I think most schools aren't really in a position to do that. I mean, you are, if you're Alabama, you can give a guy prominence and give him a prominent role and help him, like I say, kind of get back into the job. But Pitt doesn't necessarily have that kind of exposure, I think, to pull that off. Let's see. H2P_JC. We'll get a couple more here. He says, football, everyone's favorite topic. What is going on with the wide receiver situation? Jaquay Jackson situation kind of reminds me of what went on with Dante Cephas. We accept no one knows what's going on there. Have any updates on the other potential targets? So let's see. In full disclosure, we're taping this episode on Thursday. So if news about Jaquay Jackson, the Cal U transfer receiver who's looking for a new home, if that comes out later, this will be sort of dated material, I guess. But there's just nothing there. And even you mentioned Dante Cephas from where is he from? Kent State, kid who from Penn Hills who went to Kent State. He's going to Penn State. I think we had an idea of what was going on there. Sometimes the information would sort of shift back and forth. It looked like it was Pitt. It looked like it was Penn State. There's still a question of whether he's going to be able to get his credits to transfer and even play at Penn State this year. I think that's still kind of up in the air. And Jaquay Jackson from Cal U, originally Sarah Catholic, there's just nothing out there. I mean, I've talked to a lot of different people on a lot of different sides of this thing, and nobody really has a clear picture of what's going on. And so Rutgers is the rumor. It's been the rumor since last week at this time, and nothing has happened yet. Those rumors about Rutgers started coming out. He was supposed to commit last Saturday. He was supposed to pick a school last Saturday. Those rumors started coming out about Rutgers shortly before he was supposed to commit, and then nothing happened. So I think there's probably a lot of possibilities of what's going on there, or what the delay is, or the holdup, or why he hasn't picked a school yet. I'm still inclined to think it might not. I'm still inclined to think it won't be Pitt, but anything is possible at this point with that situation. Like you said, nobody really knows all that much, or at least not much information's getting out, no matter who you talk to. Let's see. 5-4 Pitt says, just looking for overall football transfer portal updates. Is there anyone Pitt has traction with? Any visits being set up, etc.? Well, we haven't really posted anything on the boards lately because we haven't really gotten much information in that regard. Usually, if we have something, we'll post it on the boards. I promise not to save it for the mailbag edition. We're not seeing a lot right now. I think they've got just a couple scholarship spots open. As it stands under the 85, I think 2 or 3. I have to double check the official count that we keep on Panther-Lair.com. But I think they're trying to get a receiver. Quay Jackson is kind of the primary guy at this point. Dylan Goffney, who they were after from SMU, he committed to Colorado State. You see the options kind of waning a little bit, but we've seen them add guys even as late as into the summer. So, we'll just kind of keep an eye on it. I think there's always a possibility you could find some late bloomer 2023 kid who's out there, maybe a kid who was going to reclassify to 2024, but you decide to end up taking him right now. You could find somebody else who sort of pops up as a grad transfer over the summer, and you always could have a scholarship or two to give to a walk-on. I mean, look, their punter this year is going to be a walk-on. So you would think that you'll probably put the punter on scholarship. You would think. After Sam Vanderhaar went into the transfer portal and the only scholarship punter on the roster is gone, you would think that the punter is going to get a scholarship. So you really only probably have 1 or 2 spots to work with anyway. So I don't know how much activity there can really be in the transfer portal right now. I mean, they're not trying to bring in 5 more guys. They don't have room to bring in 5 more guys or 3 more guys, at least according to my calculations on the math. So, if it feels like there's just not a lot of updates, it's because I don't think there's a lot to update on right now. But we'll see what develops. All right. There are more questions in there, but we passed that 25-minute mark. Like I said, I don't like to go too far beyond that 25 minutes because I feel like the attention starts to wane. So we'll save those questions for next week. We got a lot of good questions that are in that thread, so I appreciate everybody who contributed them. Thanks as always for that. I enjoy these mailbags. I like when you guys pick a few topics to talk about, and they're always good topics too. So my tip of the cap to you. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. It's the most comprehensive source of YouTube. I skipped over the middle sentence there, right? youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com is the YouTube channel. The website is Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com, the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, football, basketball, and recruiting. Go check it out, Panther-Lair.com. It's been a week, Pitt fans, and it's been a lot of fun talking to you all week long. Hopefully you caught all the Morning Pitt episodes. If you missed any of them, they're right there at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and have a great weekend. All right? Enjoy today. Enjoy the next couple days. Hopefully the rain holds off, and we will talk to you Monday morning for the Morning Pitt right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.